Welcome to Shadowproof. Evidence first, noise last.
In the digital silence of a closed laptop, Sarah Thompson's perfect wedding photo still glowed faintly. The scent of ozone, like lightning had struck, clung to the air around her. Every guest in the photo was smiling, but in the blurred background, a figure stood perfectly still. It was in the next picture, and the next, a cold, damp presence seeping into every frame. A sticky dread, thick as syrup, paralyzed her fingers on the keyboard. The proof wasn't hidden. It was smiling back at her from 100 angles, a truth she was never meant to see. Her breath hitched, caught in a throat gone dry as dust. This was the story of the wedding guest, who was never really there. The perfect dress, the perfect man. It took her 2 years to see the woman hiding in plain sight, the other wife. The air grew heavy with the scent of old perfume and something metallic, like forgotten jewelry. A faint scratching sound came from the closet, rhythmic and deliberate, like nails on wood. She realized the sticky dampness on her palms wasn't sweat, but the cold residue of another's touch. In Austin's golden light, Sarah and John, a charming man in his late 30s, shared easy laughter at a food truck. Their world was one of warm hands and sunlit trails, captured in idyllic, hopeful frames. This story begins, not with a scream, but with a deep, contented sigh. It was the calm before the storm, a perfect picture soon to be fractured. Sarah's Austin life felt like a dream she'd finally woken inside. She met John Bennett at a tech conference. Successful, consulting partner, witty, attentive. He adored his mother, loved dogs, and looked at Sarah as if she'd hung the Texas sun herself. It was perfect. A warmth that felt almost too good to be true. After a whirlwind, storybook romance, he proposed on a rooftop under a blanket of stars. Of course she said yes. The wedding was a Pinterest board come to life. The Hill Country Vineyard hosted 150 guests. Her grandmother's antique lace delicately woven into her veil. Sarah felt weightless, ethereal. During their vows, she locked eyes with John, and a single thought crystallized. I won the lottery. Mike, John's college friend and their photographer, captured every perfect moment. For months afterward, those images became sacred artifacts of their happiness. Silver frames on their mantelpiece held the day suspended, a constant, beautiful echo that would soon twist into something else entirely. In their chic apartment, Sarah smiled at her laptop's glow, oblivious to the distance growing between them. John stared at his phone, the screen's light casting hollow shadows across his face. The air grew heavy with unspoken tension, thick enough to taste. Outside, the city's normal hum faded into an unnatural stillness, broken only by the faint, metallic scent of ozone creeping through a cracked window. But the echoes faded into the heavy silence that now filled the house. Their first year of marriage brought subtle shifts that settled like dust. John began traveling more for work, his absences stretching longer each time. Denver, Seattle, Phoenix, he'd say, the names becoming a hollow refrain. His phone, once left casually on the counter, now never left his pocket, guarded by a new passcode. When Sarah asked about it, he'd kiss her forehead, his breath carrying the faint scent of ozone and iron. Just client NDAs, honey, he'd murmur, the words hanging in the air like damp, heavy mist. Each excuse left a sticky residue of doubt that clung to their home's familiar spaces. The air in their sealed marriage felt stale, stagnant, yet a phantom draft brushed her skin. She dismissed the unease as paranoia, a trick of a lonely mind. That Tuesday, with John at another late client dinner, the quiet pressed in. Driven by that hollow feeling, she did what we all do. She sought a memory. She returned to the beginning, pouring a glass of wine and opening the wedding album, seeking solace in those captured moments of joy. The sound of pages turning filled the quiet room as the video focused on photos. The receiving line, the dance floor, guests laughing at tables. She lingered on one image, the crowd during the father-daughter dance. In that sea of smiling faces, something felt off. Then, in the background near the bar, her gaze locked onto a figure. A woman with a sharp blonde bob and an emerald dress stood motionless. Her eyes were fixed on the swirling dancers, but her face held no joy, no smile, only a vacant, observing stillness. The air around her seemed to grow dense, the festive noise suddenly feeling distant and hollow. Her expression was unnerving, inscrutable. Sarah's finger hovered over the screen, tracing the image's outline. The air in the room felt thin and stale, carrying a faint, metallic scent. A strange guest, Sarah thought. The words, a cold whisper in her mind. Flipping the page, she froze. The same woman appeared again in the cake-cutting shot, then again, lurking behind John's groomsmen during the toasts. Each time, her face remained expressionless, her posture unnaturally still. A sickly, sweet scent of decaying flowers seemed to seep from the album pages. They were always in the periphery, always watching. Sarah's fingers flew across the keyboard, her frantic scrolling through the digital photos a desperate, staccato rhythm. The metallic scent of ozone from the overheating laptop mixed with the sour tang of her own rising panic. A low, electronic whine from the machine underscored the frantic whisper of her own breath catching in her throat. C-L-I-C-K, C-L-I-C-K, C-L-I-C-K. Sarah's heart began a slow, heavy drumbeat. The air in her office grew thick and stale, smelling faintly of dust and warm electronics. With a final, decisive click, she opened the entire digital gallery. She hunted for the color green, obsessively scanning every frame. And there she was, staring back, appearing in over 60 photographs. At the ceremony, the scent of damp earth and ozone hung in the air. A primal dread took hold as she spotted the figure, tucked silently behind a pillar. At the reception, her reflection caught in a mirror. In one chilling shot, she stood just beyond the barn doors, backlit by the dying twilight. Sarah and John shared their first kiss as husband and wife in the foreground, an extreme close-up on the woman's face in the doorway. Her expression was not sad, not angry, but something far more unsettling. A metallic, coppery scent hung in the air as Sarah whispered into the void. "Who are you?" A primal dread rooted her to the spot, the damp chill of the room seeping into her bones. With shaking hands, she fumbled for her phone, her call to Mike the photographer, a desperate lifeline. Mike's filtered voice, distant and cold, replied with a simple, haunting question. "Oh, her?" I noticed her immediately. She didn't belong. When editing, I asked John who she was. He said she was a random +1 from the venue coordinator, maybe a friend of the caterer, he suggested casually. But her presence felt intentional, a deliberate tear in the fabric of the event. He told me not to waste time photoshopping her out. It wasn't a big deal. The lie was thin, and it was John's. Who wears emerald silk to a stranger's wedding? Who stares with that kind of focused gravity? The air grew heavy with the scent of ozone and the whisper of something unseen. Sarah's fingers trembled as she captured the woman's face on screen. She fed the image into a reverse search, the loading bar creeping forward like a slow poison. The air grew thick with ozone as the match notification flashed. In that instant, Sarah knew she had crossed into something from which there was no return. A reverse image search. The internet did its terrible magic. The cursor hovered, then clicked. The screen flickered as algorithms churned through databases. Results loaded. The face matched perfectly. A LinkedIn profile appeared. Elena Rossi. The name hung in the heavy air like a verdict. Senior account manager, Phoenix, Arizona. John's frequent client destination. Her profile picture was recent, but the blonde bob had grown long and brown, yet the eyes remained the same. Unblinking. Fixed. Holding a recognition that felt misplaced. The air in John's office grew thick with the scent of ozone and old paper, as if reality itself had thinned. There she was. Sarah's mouse clicked. A private social media profile, not fully locked. Wedding photos. Sarah's reality fractured without a sound, illuminated only by her laptop's sterile glow. There was John, younger, his skin bronzed by a different sun, wearing an unfamiliar suit, and beside him stood Elena, radiant in white, the ocean breeze lifting her veil. The timestamp in the corner read, 18 months before Sarah would walk down the aisle. Sarah's thumb froze on the screen. The captions read, "Marrying my best friend, happily ever after Bennett." He'd used his real name. A metallic scent, like cold iron, filled the air as she scrolled deeper through Elena's profile. Post after post detailed her husband, Jay, being away for work. The dates stamped on them overlapped perfectly with the months of Sarah's own engagement. The reality of it settled in her gut like a slab of stone, cold and immovable. During her wedding, the word bigamist hung in the air like a foul stench. It felt archaic, impossible, a relic from another era that had no place in her reality. But then the evidence arrived, not as a trickle, but as a crushing tsunami of truth. John had another wife, a life, waiting for him in Phoenix. He'd constructed an entire second existence in Austin, complete with his marriage to Sarah. Yet the most audacious and chilling detail of this fabricated life was the presence of his first wife. She had been there all along, a ghost woven into the fabric of his new reality. Her silent, pervasive proximity turned his sanctuary into a gilded cage of dread. From the darkness, Sarah watched him return, the key scraped in the lock, a metallic shriek in the still apartment. The door swung open, flooding the entryway with lights. And there he stood. His cheerful voice cut through the heavy air. "Hey, sweetheart," John returned home, murmuring, "Missed you. Tough day." His voice weary as he leaned in for a kiss. But Sarah flinched away, her body rigid, the laptop screen still illuminated with Elena Bennett's haunting portrait. Her voice trembled, flat and cold, as she asked, "Who is Elena Bennett, John?" The question hung in the air like a blade, and John's face, the charm drained from his face, replaced by a cold, calculating blankness that froze Sarah's blood. "Where did you hear that name?" His voice was flat, devoid of any warmth she'd ever known. Sarah rose, her voice trembling as it climbed toward panic. "She was at our wedding, in a green dress." The words tore from her throat. "She's your wife. You have another wife." John doesn't deny it. He just deflates. The air grew heavy with ozone and something metallic, Then he smirks, a small, chilling thing that doesn't reach his eyes. John's voice was a low, sticky whisper. She wanted to see what she was up against. I told her not to come. In that breathless moment, Sarah understood. Elena wasn't a victim. She was a willing participant. John had somehow convinced his first wife to tolerate a second. A chilling arrangement steeped in rot and whispered secrets.
Elena had arrived to audit her replacement, the air thick with the scent of old paper and dust. Weeks later, Sarah sat in a lawyer's office, the cold leather chair sticking to her skin. Outside her old apartment, she stood clutching a box, every whisper of the wind feeling like a judgment. The police termed it bigamy, a void marriage dissolved in swift, clinical silence. John and Elena vanished into the night, retreating to Phoenix or some other city where their sickness could fester in anonymity. Sarah inherited the apartment and its heavy, silent furniture.
She reclaimed her life, piece by piece.
But the victory felt hollow, the air thick with the lingering scent of ozone and old paper.
The final shot. The wedding album lies open, its pages splayed to reveal a single, faded photograph of the smiling crowd. The camera drifts closer to the woman in the emerald gown, Elena, her stillness unnerving. It then pans to Sarah in the foreground, her face serene, utterly oblivious to the presence behind her. But some debts can never be repaid. The trust you broke, the memories you stained, they linger like a stain you can't wash out. Sarah can no longer view any photograph from that day without seeing the other wife, frozen in the frame. Not a ghost, but something far more tangible, a presence that was chillingly real. Now, a single question coils in her mind, a cold knot of dread she can never untie. Was Elena there that day to prevent it? Or was she just there to witness her husband's other life begin, knowing it was her life too? Narrator. So look closer at your happy memories. Who's really in the background? And what do they know about your life that you don't? The air grew thick with the metallic scent of ozone and a faint, cloying decay. A cold, damp pressure settled against his skin, as if the darkness itself had become a physical presence. Then, from the absolute void, a single, wet whisper brushed against his ear, carrying a word that froze the very air in his lungs.
If the proof convinced you, subscribe and open the next case.